Hey guys, Jathan here with another video. It has been an extremely long time since I've published any content. I would like to apologize for that, but also I'm going to be honest. Life kind of came at me fast. I didn't have COVID, but I mean COVID happened. The pandemic happened. I got a new job. I bought a house. I have since moved into the house and have been working on renovating the house. So just a lot going on. Um, that being said, to this day, I'm still getting comments on the ZFS videos and I'm getting all kinds of feedback on them, which is awesome. I super appreciate that. Thank you guys for the positive comments as well as some of the more constructive ones about, the text in my terminal being too small and stuff like that. I hope that I've incorporated that feedback and everything in this video is readable and good to go. So anyway, real quick, this is kind of just like a jumping back in video. I want to talk about just a couple of things that I've done and set up to prepare for starting to publish content again. The first being, you'll see here, we're obviously staring at the Linode Cloud Manager. I have a single Linode running called Fedora StackScript testing. This was deployed with a StackScript, which is just kind of Linode's version of Cloud Init. If you've used AWS or GCP or any of those, you know what Cloud Init is most likely. And for all I know, Linode may use Cloud Init under the hood. I'm not totally certain. I can look into that. But in any case, I want to talk about why I'm using Fedora, why I'm going to be using Fedora for a couple of the videos here that we're going to be working on. And I want to show you the StackScript. So professionally, I work primarily with Red Hat and CentOS. My personal infrastructure is running either on Arch or CentOS. They are my preferences. However, sometimes installing things on CentOS can be a little dicey just because the packages and libraries and all are a little bit older. So by using Fedora, we gain slightly larger, newer package base. But we still get to keep our familiar, SE Linux package management, all the things that CentOS typically offers, just in a slightly more modern environment, I suppose. So, all that to say, here is the StackScript in question that was used to deploy this Linode. Like I said, this Linode is what we're going to use moving forward for a bunch of the videos that I have kind of lined up right now. I wanted to share this so that if you wanted to follow along, 100%, doing exactly what I'm doing in the same environment, you could replicate this. So, shebang, standard, turn off SE Linux. I would normally run with SE Linux on, to be totally honest, but these videos are not specific to CentOS or Red Hat or Fedora necessarily. So I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time in them talking about SE Linux and getting things working in that context. So I'm just disabling it for the purposes of making these videos. Again, especially in like an enterprise production environment, I would never do that, but here we are. Cockpit was added sometime in Red Hat 8, and of course in Fedora. I don't know exactly what it is. It's some kind of web interface to manage your server or something. I've literally never looked at it. I just know that they added it, and I disable it, and I stop it because I don't need it. Update all the system packages, install Vim, install Git, set our time zone, and enable NTP, set our host name. These are all fairly standard things. From there, I go on to create the Jonathan user and add him to the wheel group so that I can use sudo. The one thing I'll note here is I am pulling my SSH keys from GitHub. This is another one that's security-wise possibly not the best method. I'm assuming that when I type in github.com on my Linode, I actually get to what we know as GitHub. And since I don't own the DNS or control the DNS here, that is an assumption. I'm also assuming that both my GitHub account and GitHub in general were not compromised in any way. So, if that were the case, I could be pulling some random keys and adding it to the authorized keys file. That being said, these are just one-off testing instances that I'm using to create these videos. It's a way for me to start fresh every time so that we're on the same page and I don't have to keep, redoing and undoing my work and such. So this feels like it's okay for this purpose, but I would never do this in an enterprise or a production environment, or even on personal infrastructure that wasn't ephemeral. Put a vimrc in place, make sure the ownership's correct on everything, good there. This here is a script that a buddy of mine wrote to do a bunch of things to Harden Ssh. It generates new host keys, it disables things like X11 forwarding and password login and stuff like that. I would not recommend that you just run this blindly without understanding what it's doing, but if you are so inclined to go check it out, feel free. This is just a way for me to save some time doing all these things by hand. And then here, this is all entirely dedicated to installing something called Copia and setting up some cron jobs to automatically take backups and snapshots of Etsy and my home directory on this box. I'm not going to talk too much about all of this now because the next couple of videos are actually going to be about Copia and how Copia works and what Copia can provide for us. But suffice it to say, I'm installing it, I'm configuring it, and stuff like that. Like I said, creating some cron jobs here. Again, I put my vimrc in place for the root user, and then I reboot. So a really nice feature of Linode is that, and most, if not all, VPS providers do this, but I'm obviously talking about Linode here, is power events for your Linodes by default will email you. So I can start a Linode and use this script to provision it, and I'm going to get an email when this reboot happens here on line 107. So I don't have to sit and watch and keep checking. Oh, is it done? Is it done? No, it's going to email me when it reboots. So I know that this is all run once that happens. So that's perfect for this. Realistically, this Linode right now that I was looking at before, this is a dedicated 4 gig RAM instance. It's about $30 a month. So, roughly $1 a day. It's not going to break the bank, but I don't need to be paying for it all the time. So realistically, my workflow is going to be like, okay, it's Saturday. I'm going to record a couple of videos today. So in the morning, I might just run, stand this up with the StackScript. I'll get an email when it's ready to go. Okay, I'm going to go upstairs, sit down at my desk and start working then. And then when I'm done, click here and just delete it. I'm not going to do that quite yet here. So I am going to talk real quick too about ways that this could be better, because I'm not going to lie, I threw this together quickly. It's kind of quick and dirty. It works. It does what it needs to do for me for right now. But there are ways that this could probably be better. So number one, this could literally be a one-line script that just pulls something from Git and runs it. And I could keep the rest of this all in Git. And that way I don't have to keep coming into Linode and clicking edit and recopy and pasting any updates to this script. So that's one way that this could inherently be improved. The other thing is, rather than being all written in Bash, of course, it could be some kind of configuration management. So it could be an Ansible playbook, or it could utilize masterless salt. And, the whole script would be pulling my salt tree, starting masterless salt, and running all the states that are in there. So I already, would like to make some of those improvements. In a future video, maybe I will actually talk about masterless salt and we'll work on converting this or something as an example. But in any case, I just wanted to cover those bases. Like, this is not the only way to do this. This is not even the best way to do this, but it works. And it took me a couple of minutes to write all this. So not a big deal. So, whoops, I am going to go back here and grab this IP address. I'll just log in and show you a couple of quick things here. So if I log into this Linode, you'll see here this web console message. This is Cockpit. It is actually disabled though. You'll see here it's not running. So this is just something that's baked into the MOTD, whether or not it's running. The other thing is, even though my script creates my user and adds me to the wheel group, there's no way for me to set a password non-interactively without, storing a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't necessarily want to store. So one of the first things I will have to do when I log in is become root and then set a password for the Jonathan user. I'm not going to actually do that now, but it just serves as kind of an example. That is the one sort of manual step here. Last but not least, I'm just going to point out here, I'm in root's home directory. The stack script itself that's used to deploy is always going to be here on a new deployment that you've used one. Here are the 2 backup folders. So Etsy backups, Jonathan Home backups. Those are not like human readable since we're using Copia. It has its own structure in here, but that is where they're stored in root's home directory. And then the actual backup scripts themselves are also in the bin directory in root's home. And they're nothing too special, really quite simple, but they get the job done. I'm not going to talk about Copia too much now because, like I said, we're going to have a couple of videos dedicated to just talking about Copia, but I did want to at least point that out. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and close this out. I really wanted to just make sure that you guys were aware of how I was deploying the system I'm going to be using for a bunch of my upcoming videos. I will make it available, the StackScripts, so you can follow along using the exact same setup if you want to. Again, really appreciate all of the feedback on the ZFS videos. And like I said, we will get back to talking about ZFS at some point. And yeah, looking forward to publishing some more content. I'm going to primarily be focusing right now on things that are probably not as well known, as a little bit niche, but I think they'll add value because people are not talking about these things quite as much. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Look forward to those Copia videos, and I will see everybody soon.